Welcome to everybody. My name is Gary Walker. I'm the director of TAG North Metro, and I really want to thank everybody for being here with us for another great TAG virtual event. The industry, and is America doing enough to keep up with this? So we've got a great panel for you today, and they'll have a chance in just a second to introduce themselves, but I just want to thank very briefly Kay Morgan, the Senior Manager of Diversity and Inclusion at Cox Automotive, Promot Sergeant, founder and CEO of Paramount Software Solutions, Shawn Bank, without an S, founder and managing director of Imagine X Consulting, and Tricia Dempsey, CEO of Thrive Her, among many other things. Thanks to each being here today and for bringing your background and your knowledge in this subject. Also want to give a special thank you to our sponsors, Paramount Software and Cox. We're grateful for their support in helping TAG bring great virtual events like these to Georgia's technology community. You can learn more about TAG's virtual event offerings at tagonline.org. TAG is working hard to keep our tech community connected during this unprecedented time with a variety of ways to engage virtually. So be sure to check out our virtual events calendar. And as Julie mentioned a minute ago, for those of you listening today live, we are recording this. It will be available later. So for those of you live right now, you can type in your questions in the Q&A box. We will be getting to Q&A at the end of the talk, so stay tuned for that. And I think I've got the housekeeping out of the way. So let me turn this over to our moderator, Tricia Dempsey. Tricia started her career as a 7th grade teacher and grown it into an 8-figure CEO. After selling her firm to a publicly traded company, she launched Thrive Her and is on a mission to help purpose-driven women creating thriving careers and lives they love through content, coaching, and community. So with that, I leave it in the incredibly capable hands of Ms. Tricia Dempsey.
Well, thank you, Gary. Thanks for TAG for hosting this event and for all of the sponsors today. It's good to see everybody. You guys, we are going to bring the weather today. So for all 35 of you that dialed in and anybody that joins a little later, we'd ask that you bring it back to us. Engage with us in the chat, ask questions in the Q&A, and we'll be able to try to get to as many of those as we possibly can. But being live on this kind of Zoom environment, and you're probably all alone in your home, it helps a lot when you engage with us. So I just welcome you to do that throughout today's call. And let us start with just a couple of statistics. IDC did a study in June of 2019, and here's what it showed, is that women represent 37% of all technology employees, and women represented 24% of all senior leadership positions. And that's here in the United States. So we're going to be talking about this issue today, about how to be able to provide you with diverse perspectives and give you some actionable steps to help you advance more female leaders in technology in your company. And with that, I'm going to open up with a question for all the panelists. And I'll go from what I see in my screen, Shawn to Kay to Pramod. I'll go in that direction so you can know I'm coming for you. But introduce yourself, and why don't we go ahead and get the COVID question out of the way and just ask, how has today's COVID work environment been challenging or beneficial when it comes to overall employee productivity? So Shawn, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Thank you so much, Tricia. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Shawn Bank. I am the co-founder and CEO of Imagine X Consulting. We're a 5-year-old, boutique technology consulting firm focusing on cybersecurity, custom software engineering, DevOps, automation, and data insights. I've been in the technology industry for pretty much all of my career here in Atlanta, which is about 20 years now. So I have, this would be kind of my third kind of impacting event that I have worked through. The first one being September 11th of 2001, when I had just started my career. I came into the technology consulting market right during that essentially downturn, and then was working through technology consulting during the recession of 2007 and 2008. So with this newest, pandemic, this would be kind of my third round of seeing technology going through a significant changes right in front of our eyes. And so to just share my thoughts and then hand it off to the rest of the panel, COVID has had a significant impact to everything we've been doing at ImagineX. And in many cases, we're actually seeing positive outcomes from it. Historically, we've been a remote company anyway. More than half of our consultants are spread across the United States and some even in Canada. And so we're used to the concept of remote work. With COVID, it's created, additional stress because we have a lot of folks now that are working from home, have children around them, have spouses that are also working from home. And so the added challenge is trying to juggle all these things at the same time. But we've been very focused in making sure that we have frequent touch points. We're using tools like Zoom and Slack constantly to make sure that we're all keeping up with each other and making sure that even though we're separated, we all still feel very connected. And we've actually over communicated. And so we've seen no drop in productivity. Actually, some people would say that we're getting more done because being separated, you kind of have a lot of time to actually complete tasks that when you're in a kind of co-located environment, you may get distractions. And so for us, we've actually seen productivity gains.
Awesome. Thanks, Shawn. How about you, Kay?
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. So as was mentioned before, I am Kay Morgan. I work for Cox Automotive. And for those folks who may be unfamiliar with Cox, we are a division of Cox Enterprises, and we provide solutions to auto dealers and to consumers to make it easier for them to buy, sell, own, and use cars. My role, as mentioned before, is Senior Manager of Diversity and Inclusion, and I work with a great team of people who use programs and initiatives and partnerships to help drive the diversity and inclusion strategy for the overall organization. Much like Shawn just said, COVID-19 certainly has had a huge impact on how we do our work. I will say overall, our Cox family has done an excellent job in being very quick, very swift in getting everybody on technology that needs to be. The organization as a whole has been excellent in communicating to employees. And I will say that even our managers have been so great at reaching out to their teams. Our employees have reached out to each other. You're seeing a lot of humanizing that you haven't seen before. You're getting a peek into behind the curtain for so many people. And to Shawn's point, also, our productivity has remained the same. This has certainly been level setting for everyone, right? Everyone is home now. Everyone has many of the same challenges. And the good, the pro and the con to us being home is, sure, there's no commute. We don't have to worry about traffic anymore. We are able to spend more time with our families. But the downside is that we're home. We don't have the connection with our employees that we had before. It's a little awkward, but not impossible to get work done. And then the other piece of that is there was scheduling, right? So now we are super productive because now we can't let go of this laptop. Now we can run upstairs, get something to eat, and come back down and work throughout the time. So there is certainly positivity in being able to be so productive. I'm certainly happy for those folks who are able to justify being able to work from home now. But I see definitely the blueprint for a different way of working for us.
I don't think we'll return to normal after all of this is all over again. Okay, hi, Promot, how about you? Hang on, let me unmute you. Can you unmute? There you go. Oh.
Okay, I got it. Thanks, Tricia. Thanks, Gary. My name is Promot Sergeant, President of Paramount Software Solutions. So we are a technology company based here in Atlanta for the last 21 years with specialization in blockchain. We have about 200 employees spread all across US. And as far as the COVID-19, I think this is a very interesting situation. I think none of us, I mean, this is very unique to the whole the century as such, that it has impacted every human being, every country in exactly the same way all across the world. I don't think any other pandemic has impacted, in this way in the last, about maybe 100 years. So having said that, to Shawn's point, we are a technology company. So we've been doing the work from home, flexible hours, right since last 20 years. So this is something which is not new for us, but the pandemic has actually opened up a different kind of a mindset. And one of the things what we are seeing is in the midst of this COVID-19, the families are spending a lot of time together with, with the kids, especially, having to work with the kids. So now this has become the coexisting culture with the kids working, with spouses working, has become a new norm. So I guess probably, as Ms. K said, this is going to be the new norm going forward. And on top of it, we actually dedicated our April monthly newsletter to our lockdown stories. So one thing that resonated from stories being heard from everyone is that how kids are adjusting to this, which was very, very, even with my own kids, I could see that, they've adjusted very gracefully to the whole situation. So as a company, we are doing good. Our productivity has gone up. We are used to the working remote, both onshore, offshore. So yeah, I mean, overall, it's been good so far.
That's awesome. I popped a question out to all the panelists and attendees to just ask you whether you're seeing an increase or decrease in productivity in your company. So talk back to us, let us know what you're seeing. And then I'll move on to the second question, which is we're going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Can you talk a little bit about the impact that has had on your own business ROI? Promot, why don't we start in the reverse order? I'll let you go first.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So as a company, we are a big believer in diversity and equality. So that's, to start with, I'll just get that out of the way, saying that, as a company, not just me or not just some of the few leadership teams, but, as a company, we're a very big believer in diversity and equality. So in fact, some of our leadership teams, we have more than 50% of female presence. And there are about 3 teams actually, which are 100% women dominated and women owned. So that's, I mean, the biggest RIA for our company, what we have experienced with diversity and inclusion is creativity. And what I mean by that is, having so many women in our leadership roles, we actually are seeing out of the box thinking. And what I meant by out of the box thinking is, as a small business, most of the small businesses actually hit the ceiling at some point in time. So breaking that ceiling kind of becomes a very difficult task for most of the companies. So as part of that, we've introduced something called US Traction, US Entrepreneurial Operating System Traction, which is a comprehensive business system with simple tools to improve. So while we are implementing this, some of the exciting ideas have actually come from our female leadership team. So that is the biggest ROI that we've seen in our company by having implemented diversity and equality, which is, as I said, out of the box thinking, and then, having more unique ideas spreading across.
Awesome. How about you, Kay?
Sure thing, if I can get this mic open. So at Cox, I'd like to say that we have what I'll call an inside-out diversity strategy. And what that means is internally, we drive inclusivity, we drive cultural competency, and just plain old respect for one another inside. We do that through employee resource groups, through the development of leadership capabilities and leadership programs, where we are very intentional about supporting a diverse pipeline. And then externally, you start to see that in how we hire for our workforce. We try to be very intentional about representation, and that our representation is also of our customer base. We try to provide products and services that speak specific to that representation as well. And then the third way that I would say is through the support of organizations that provide training and that provide overall support to our suppliers and support to our customer bases. We make sure that we support organizations that lift up women and people of color and give them the opportunities, the tools, and the resources that they need to be viable in the business place.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kay. Shawn?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Kay and Promot. You know, supporting diversity in our workforce, especially in technology, has always been top of mind, really, for every company. As we all know, in technology, that would be one of the industries where, you know, historically there's been a much lower percentage of females or women in the workforce compared to men, and that was something that weighed on mine and my co-founders' minds pretty heavily when we were forming ImagineX 5 years ago, was figuring out how do we tackle that problem from the start of the company to build a company and a culture from the ground up that was very focused on inclusion and having a diverse workforce. Because as we know, having different point of views, especially in consulting, will get you to a better answer and a better solution. And so you know, we took actions right from the start of the company to make sure that we were focusing on hiring females into our workforce, and also making sure that we had career progression and career paths for those women. And just looking at the numbers in our company, we're still a fairly small company. We have 55 full-time employees, and right now, our percentage of females is lower than I'd like it to be. We're right around 20%, which for our areas in cybersecurity and software engineering is actually not a bad number, because those verticals inside of technology are typically heavily male dominated. And so we're at least happy that we're taking steps towards that. But what's more interesting is that of those 11 women at our company, we have 6 that are in leadership positions, so senior leadership positions, and all have been promoted organically from within, right? So we have been essentially growing our females' careers inside of the company, and we're really proud of that. And that percentage, when you look at that number of leaders out of our total you know, women at the company is, you know, more than 50%, which is significantly higher than our promote ratio for males. So we're making sure that we are providing an environment where women can grow and are very comfortable in excelling and you know, participating, and a lot are in very senior positions, like leading up our accounts, leading up our internal organizations like finance and tax, and so for us, it's been it's always something that we constantly talk about. We do quarterly business reviews, and that is always a topic on the agenda. And we've even put programs in place, like a women's affinity group that we call Women of IX, where all of our women are, you know, essentially in a community that is helping to essentially help us improve the recruiting and retention of females inside of our company and in the industry as a whole. And we've provided them specific customized training around personal purpose that has helped them to understand how they fit work into personal lives with kids and families, and how best to essentially, you know, get the best of both worlds. And I think that's been very successful, and we use them as essentially our beta release for testing this personal purpose training, and it was really successful. And so we're going to now roll that out to the rest of the company as a result of the feedback we've gotten from all of our women.
I love it. You're speaking my language when it comes to purpose, and you got a little love in the comments back to a little kudos for ImagineX. But I think it's super innovative that a company with 55 employees already has an affinity group. So I can't say enough to congratulate you for that. So let me give you a couple more stats. Melinda Gates talks about this one in particular, but it's going to take 208 years, according to the World Economic Forum, for gender equality to be as it needs to be in the United States. And here's another one. In Fortune 500s, there are less women CEOs than there are CEOs named James. So we have a ways to go for sure. But I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about how your company is moving toward that 50% mark and how you think we can make faster progress? So Pramod, how about if I open that one up to you first? There you go.
Yeah, sure. So first off, we embrace the idea. We just go with the idea that women are better than us. So that way, everything makes it easier both on the home front and also on the work front. So yeah, we just go with that idea. And with that, we do provide, we consciously make an effort to provide a safe environment for women employees to spread their wings, and also make sure that we also have an open door policy, because typically you don't have women employees coming in with sharing their ideas and problems as much as you have the male counterparts doing it. So it's very important that you have to have an open door policy, and we consciously make an effort to make sure that we do provide those kind of opportunities for our women employees. And I mean, frankly, what I've seen in some of the companies is it's easier said than done. It's not easy. I mean, you can always say, yeah, we have an open door policy. We make sure that, we are providing work-life balance. But unless the management is proactively taking steps, consciously are taking steps all throughout, it's going to be very difficult, for any company to reach that 50% gender equality and inclusion. So as part of, as I said, you have to start to take steps. So what we've done is, I did mention about the Traction US that we've been implementing since last 2 years closely. So as part of it, we do have rocks, which are like your goals and stuff. So we kind of initiated something. This was specially aimed at, women employees, both onshore and offshore. We wanted to, we want them to open up. So we kind of initiated something called a personal goal, personal rock, along with the professional goals. So it was very surprising to see how we could see them opening up. And that has kind of gotten the teams together and, having to open up with male counterparts and, having to seamlessly, get into it and then provide their feedback and, as I mentioned, spread their wings. So we've seen that a lot with the different kinds of steps that we've taken in the company. So that's how, we were able to reach to more than 50% gender equality. And what I personally feel is that, compared to the Silicon Valley, most of the companies here in the South are, I guess, they're not used to that. I mean, we don't have that numbers. I mean, frankly, the numbers that you mentioned probably are US numbers, but if you look at the South, they probably might be even worse than the US numbers. And, one of the things I personally feel that, you probably have to start out with the men, typically have to get rid of the big boys club mentality. So that's the first step that I would say that, any company should, who has a lesser participation of women, they have to start out with that. And, the management has to consciously start to make efforts, to get to that 50%. Or else, if we don't do that, the 280 years that Melinda Gates mentioned, probably that could be like 300, 400 years also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about you, Kay?
Well, 208 years is a long time to wait around for things to get better. So I believe we have a strategy put in place that has some level of longevity to it. First and foremost, we have to acknowledge that there is actually a disparity, right? And we have to pay attention to our numbers, make sure we understand where we stand as an organization and where the country and actually globally women stand within organizations. And once we acknowledge that there's a disparity, then we come up with whatever the plan is to address that. And we have to identify what the cause is, the root causes of that disparity is. Realistically, there is a societal root cause and there is an organizational cause. From a society perspective, we understand that historically, girls and then women have been dissuaded from subjects around STEM and technology. Historically, girls have been directed towards, from an education standpoint, directed towards careers that speak more to their soft skills. And through the years, while there are some women who have championed technology, there still is limited representation across the board. So that's it. So that's how we look at it from a societal perspective. But then we take that inside of our organization and we look at where we are as a company. Where are we recruiting? Are we being deliberate about making sure that we have a strong pipeline? Are we providing opportunities for women to develop within the organization? Are we providing the correct criteria and feedback and all the tools and resources that they need to be able to be successful within the organization? And then the third piece of that, once we've acknowledged that there is a disparity, once we've identified what the causes are, then it is our responsibility to just do something about it. And from a Cox Automotive perspective, we make sure that we partner with organizations that train and develop women and girls. We start with organizations that start with young women as early as middle school to expose them to STEM careers, to encourage them throughout their educational pipeline into the workforce, to make sure that they're ready and they're excited about being there so that they can be competitive with everyone else in the workforce. The second thing we do is we make sure that we're intentional about where we recruit. We make sure that we have a diverse panel. We make sure that we're looking at everyone across the board so that everyone gets a fair shake. And then the third piece of that is supporting a leadership pipeline, creating opportunities for women to, one, connect with each other. We have our employee resource group also, which is called Women with Drive, which helps support women within the auto industry. If you know anything about the auto industry, you know it is very male dominated. So it's important for us to have those types of affinity groups and resource groups where women can come together and mentor and sponsor each other. So I think in the next 208 years, we should be okay. Hopefully before then.
I've actually spoken at Women in Drive. It's an incredible organization inside of Cox. So what a great testimony. How about you, Shawn?
Yeah, just a couple additional thoughts to add. You know, I think having a executive mentality of openness and gender equality is something that makes a big difference. At least it has at our company. And we're such a family-focused company. One of our co-founders, our chief people officer, constantly talks about, we're family. And that's not just our employees, it's our employees' families as well. And whether it's getting on a weekly update call where we have, our employees with their babies on and their pets or their spouses on, we are trying to drive home that, you're only your best person at work when you have support and comfort at home and support from your family. And so by encouraging people to have that work-life balance where they can still be a mother, still be a great consultant, and in some cases now, be a homeschool teacher as well. Having that environment of openness has really allowed our women to feel like it's okay to have their kids running around, or it's okay to take an hour off to go pick up the kids from school, or it's okay to change your work hours so that you have time to drop the kids in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon. We've never looked down on an alternative schedule because of responsibilities at home. And for us, it's really about, all of our employees. It's about their passion for what they do, their ability to learn, and their individual performance. And if you're doing a great job for our customers, it doesn't matter to us whether you're doing that from 10 to 3 in the afternoon, from home, at night, overnight, on the weekend. So long as you're supporting your customer, we're okay with making it work around your schedule, and we don't look down on that. We actually, I think we have more respect for the women now that are juggling all of these things, taking care of their kids, schooling their kids, and doing amazing work for our clients. To me, it actually shows the tenacity of our women. And so providing that openness to work around your schedule, I think, makes a difference to all of our women, and it really helps us in our recruiting. We've changed some of our recruiting methods to really, kind of support more women coming into our organization. And a lot of that is just by, removing some of our men from the recruiting process. So let's say we're hiring for an engineering role, and the candidate is a woman. Instead of putting her in front of 3 men for interviews, we're now putting her in front of maybe one man and a couple women, a couple of our leaders, so that they can share their perspective on how women are supported at the company, and give those recruits a better sense of, how's it going to be taken if I'm one of the few females in this organization or on this team? How's that going to work? And having that additional level of support has really made a difference in our recruiting process.
I love that. And Shawn, you touched on my next question, so maybe Promot can add to that. But it's really about kind of like, I think for the men and the women that are on the phone today, this next set of questions will be helpful. And let us know if you have any additional thoughts about this. But I want to hear it from both sides. I want to hear how you're advocating for women to be able to both be hired and retained at your companies, and then how the women are being, how are rising leaders or female executives doing it differently, and what can we learn from the female perspective? So Shawn, thanks for some of those contributions already to get it kicked off. But Promot, why don't you talk about some of the things you're doing to advocate for women in your organization?
Oh, sure. That's a very interesting question. So for me, I've been surrounded by strong women all through my life, starting with my mom. My mom probably had the biggest influence in my life. She literally gave her life, for her 3 boys. And I mean, very literally. So she's been in all through my life, she's been in a role for me, the kind of attributes that she had, it's like uncanny. I can't even begin to explain. So after that, my wife followed by my daughter. So that is kind of, subconsciously got into me as a leader, as when I started the company, that, when somebody asked me, oh, when did you consciously make a decision to have women inclusivity? So it was not like, deliberately we have done it because of, my upbringing. It's kind of very natural. So we, since the beginning, we always promoted women. We made sure that they are provided the right platform. They are provided, the right work-life balance. And, we had different programs, even though they were catered more towards, overall the whole company. But we kind of taken aggressive approach towards promoting women to the leadership roles. And not just that, we've also encouraged those leaders to have mentorship programs to mentor more and more other team members. So that has kind of helped us a lot for us to get into the advocating, not just me advocating and the leaders advocating, but they in turn, have the responsibility of getting more and more people on, mentoring more and more women, both on the onshore and the offshore side. So that has kind of, worked very well for us. And I guess, that's how we advocate from the leadership side.
That's awesome. Shawn, do you have anything else to add there from the male perspective?
I think Promot covered that pretty well.
Okay, good. Good. Kay, how about for you? How are rising female leaders or maybe even female executives doing it differently so that they can lead and earn and impact more? Tell us what you observe.
I observe a distinction between women leaders and leaders of women. Very, very distinct roles and responsibility. But the duality is the level of responsibility and accountability. So women leaders are getting sponsors, not mentors. They have mentors. Mentors tell you how to do the job. Sponsors help you socialize yourself within the organization. They help advocate for you. So it is wonderful to have a mentor, but you absolutely need a sponsor. The other thing that I see the women leaders doing is they make sure that they're visible. They connect not only with their teams and their teammates, but they're connecting with their managers, their manager's manager, and their peers, so that they show their value to the organization. They're asking all the right questions. They want to understand what the clear criteria is to get from point A to point B. They're asking questions like, how do I get there? They're asking questions, what do I need to develop? They're asking for opportunities to be at the table. There's an old saying that is, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So they're actually being a lot more vocal about what it is, and where the opportunity arises, they're able to do it. But at the end of the day, they're doing what they're hired to do, and they're doing it well, because that is going to be what is going to get them to the table. Being able to have a strong reputation, to be knowledgeable, to be good at what you do, to hit all those necessary points is what's going to be differentiating for them.
Okay, thanks for that. And I can tell you from coaching thousands of women, I see the same types of trends, but here's what I specifically see. I see women with clear vision about where they want to go, and they communicate that vision. So they're not just waiting for somebody to tap them on the shoulder or put a tiara on our heads and say, come join this wonderful team, but we're really clear about that. And then women that also can communicate their value effectively, so can elevate their wins and talk about them in a real way. We call them, at Thrive Her, we call them stats, sound bites, and stories. You need to know all three of those to be able to effectively communicate your value. And then Kay, you touched on a great one, which is being visible. So being comfortable with stepping into the light, being comfortable with leading things you haven't led before, being comfortable with raising your hand and asking for an opportunity, and being really overt about it. Because I think as women, we think a lot of times we're clear because we've told our boss one time over a casual lunch that we really like to lead at a certain level, and we think he's remembered that all these years. But we have to keep coming back and saying it again and again and again. So, I mean, we teach exactly those same things. So thank you for that. Okay, so I'm going to open it up. I think Gary or Julie have posted to ask any questions that you might have in the chat. And we're going to open this up to you all for discussion. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask maybe one more question, because I'm very curious. And maybe this will be a practical question for the audience, is what does a formal sponsorship look like? Okay, I'm a female, I'm ready to go to the next level. How do you as a man sponsor me, and how do I ask for it? So Kay, maybe you can kick us off with the ask. What is the ask? How does a woman go about doing it in the first place?
The ask comes in two ways. First, the organization should provide an opportunity for the ask to be easy, right? For almost like a matching or a pairing. If that is absent, then it is up to the individual woman leader to determine who is the best person to help them navigate throughout the organization. And that person is not likely the CEO. Everyone wants to have the CEO sponsor them. It's probably not likely to happen. It's usually a peer of your manager, or a peer in the leader, a peer, your manager's peer in the leadership team. And I think having open, honest, and conversations, just like you said, Tricia, know what you want, understand where your skills lie against what you want to do, and have be open and transparent about stating that you're unsure of how to get there, and ask the question. Just ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will either take it on or pass you on to someone who might be more equipped to get you where you need to be.
Yeah, I say to women all the time that men don't read nuance. So if I tell a story and I'm going around and promoting you, and Shawn, you can probably relate, if I'm going around and around and I'm trying to tell you something in a really direct way, men get it in like 10 words or less. Like, I really want to be a director within 12 months. How do I, right? Am I right, Promot and Shawn? Like, you don't read nuance. You don't read like wink, wink. Yep, I really like to be promoted sometime soon. So the more direct, the better. And I think the higher level, the less words to use too, is one of the things I see. Good. Okay, Shawn or Promot, how do you formally sponsor a female? What does it look like?
Yeah, I can jump in. You know, look, I would say, at least in the context of ImagineX, there isn't this formality around sponsorship. It is really what you just said. We encourage all of our women, as well as all of our men, really anyone at the company, to be explicit about where you want your career to go. We've actually, over the past 3 months, we've actually implemented a career growth framework for our company, which was absent for several years as we were in the startup mode. But as we got to year 3 and we started to promote people from within, we realized that not just women, but men as well want to understand their different career options. And so we formalized the structure to create this direct approach to saying, here is what I want. I now understand that as a consultant, my path to move up the organization is to senior consultant, and these are the expectations of that role. And from there, I can go into delivery, I can go into account, or I can become a specialist, or focus on a practice. Giving them the paths is only one step. The other step is to say you own your career, and it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or a female. We rely on you to drive your career, and our senior leaders will be here to support you in that. But you have to make the request, and you have to have at least a plan around it, right? So anyone can come up and say, I want to be promoted to a director in the next 6 months. Well, that's great that you want to do that, but what are your tactical steps that you need to take to do that, whether it be from operations, from client delivery, from people management, from business development? What are the specific steps that you're going to take to get to that goal? Anytime we've had a woman that has come to any of my co-founders or any of my leaders, they've gotten the support to mentor them and support them along the path to achieve those goals so that they can be promoted. In many cases, a women have organically been doing those things just by their personality and their drive, to where when they're promoted, they, I don't want to say it was a shock to them, but they were pleasantly surprised because they didn't have to kind of force the request. The request came organically. But now as we grow and we get bigger, we want to make sure that folks that do want to map out a career inside of the organization have a means to do that, and have the comfort to put that plan out there, talk to their people manager, and that people manager will either support them and help them achieve those goals, or pull in other folks that can support them to achieve those goals.
That's awesome. Thanks, Shawn. Promot?
So few things what we do to sponsor women involvement and inclusion is one, summer internships. So all of us summer interns are women. So that's one thing that we consciously do it, just to promote, girls in technology, in coding and as such. So that's one. And to what Shawn said, for companies, they have to have a tactical solution. Like, you can say all you want, you can go by the numbers, you can have the statistics, but unless you're putting that into kind of a practice, having some tools. So we as a company, we follow something called holacracy, and it's our management style. And in layman terms, holacracy is a flat management style where we are not more leaning towards designations per se, but more of roles. So this particular format, it gives again, the fundamental aspect of holacracy is that everyone is on a flat line. So we don't follow a top-down management style, but it's a flat. So the biggest advantage that comes out of the holacracy is that it gives opportunity to cross function. So someone from an HR team is provided a platform and then an opportunity to get into others, because that's one thing that's missing. So this goes both for men and women. It's not just for women per se, but yeah. So you kind of siloed into a unit, but the holacracy gives our team members an opportunity to cross function, to upskill, to cross sell, and gain acceptance into other areas also. So that has been very successful with us. We had team members, who kind of migrated from one team to the other, who took on more responsibility, who started off into one teams, but they kind of gotten into the other teams, learned. And this along with the US traction kind of, these are some of the tools that we're implementing to have, in a way we call it, to promote more of women inclusion.
I think the topic of holacracy could be a whole other topic, because I'm very curious about that. I've read about it and I would love to see what that looks like in action. So thanks for giving us a little preview.
Yeah, we've been implementing that for almost 5 years now, and I don't have any complaints. So frankly, we don't believe in designations, and none of the team members have any problem with that. The reason being, the fundamentals of holacracy works in so many good ways that, at some point in time, people don't care for designation.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, Kate, somebody had asked me if you could talk a little bit maybe about some of the organizations that you partner with, or some of the initiatives that you're involved in that get girls involved in STEM at a very early age, and kind of what are some of the interventions that they're doing to do that?
My two off of the top of my head, Girls Inc.
Yeah.
Girls Inc. has a STEM I'm going to call it a work stream, a STEM stream, where they work specifically with the young ladies from middle school all the way up to, actually it's STEAM, not just STEM. So it includes the arts as well. And where there are opportunities for them to develop interest and to maintain interest into STEM careers and STEM opportunities. The second would be Women in Technology. Which does very much the same from a middle school girl age group all the way through professional women. And it provides series of opportunities for us to work with them to provide expertise to women in the technology field.
Yeah, I love both of those organizations. Thanks for sharing. For those of you who don't know, we can maybe pop some more information into the chat about that. But let me ask you guys, what has been a program, this is coming out from the chat, what has been a program or a company that has done something that you've especially admired around promoting more women in technology? What have you seen? If money were no object, what are the best companies doing?
Frankly, if you ask me that question, I would say the federal government is doing an exceptional job on that. So when they have the women-owned certification, and when they set aside, they literally mean it. Most of the other companies are doing it. We see a lot about this inclusion, and we've been part of those inclusions, but yeah, nothing comes out of it, especially from the commercial world. But federal government are very serious about it, the set aside. So I think, I personally feel have done a great job. I would say probably federal government has done a great job, and some of the SLEDs also, some of the local counties and local state governments have also done. But overall, I would give credit to what federal government is doing.
Mm-hmm. I would echo that. And for those who may be women owned, I was women owned for lots of years. WeBank WBENC and NABO, and National Association of Women Business Owners, are both good organizations to become certified. I remember thinking it was crazy 6 months in that I had to go prove that I was a woman and that I owned my business. But it's the first step to getting into a lot of those discussions. So that was a great one to raise. Thank you. Shawn, how about you? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can point out a couple companies that I think have done a great job with, women in their workforce. These are two of ImagineX's clients, Airbnb and Circle CI. Both are Silicon Valley companies, and so maybe, at least from my experience in the past couple of years in working with companies like those two, I have seen that they do a pretty incredible job about inclusiveness in recruiting and retaining amazing women over there. I'm not sure if it's, the San Francisco and Southern California market that is a little bit more inclusive, or just the way those companies operate. But, I would spend a lot of time at both of those companies, and really a ton of the executives that I were working with were all amazing females. And in, spending time at their offices, you see a significant amount of women in, throughout the organization. And they're both technology companies at their heart. So in seeing that, I was trying to figure out, what is it that these companies are doing that is attracting these amazing women, and how can we take those learnings to the Southeast, to the Silicon Valley of the South, and help to get Atlanta using some of those best practices. I haven't quite figured it out, but it's definitely there. I definitely saw it and was very impressed by it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Kay, I imagine in your role you see quite a bit.
One or two here or there. I will say that I think the companies that, in my opinion, get it right are the companies that address the issue from its core. So those are the companies that kind of pull back their curtain and they allow other specialized organizations to come in and help them connect them with technology. So for example, those are the organizations that partner with nonprofits to help girls get acclimated in STEM careers, and then take their leadership team, their executives, and loan them to these organizations, because most of the time, girls can't be what they don't see. So if they don't see these women leaders, they're not likely to strive to be that. Those organizations that address it at the core, that are very deliberate about making those connections, are the most successful, in my opinion, in making sure that women are and stay within technology.
That's awesome. I know that gender bias education is a big part of this solution. So I'm just curious, kind of as we all maybe have a final thought for today and we get ready to wrap up, what is one suggestion that you could give, maybe something you've learned about unconscious bias, or something that, and I know a lot of us have gone through those trainings, what is maybe one suggestion you could give of, hey, I might be making this mistake today, but if I were more aware that that is offensive, or more aware that I'm holding somebody back by that I could actually shift the mindset or shift the workforce that I'm working in today. And I don't know if that is, I'll give you a minute to think about it. Anybody who wants to go first, I'd love to hear from you. Maybe just some closing thoughts, and just kind of one really practical thing, like, hey, I used to say this, or I used to think this, and this is what I realized is just not okay. Because we might all be making these simple mistakes and we don't even know we're making them half of the time. So I'll leave that open. Whoever wants to take that one first.
I can go first. So first off, we're not doing anything wrong. So, I mean, number one, as a company, as an individual, we're not doing anything wrong. So, but the 280 years is kind of stuck in my head. I've been going through some stats. And there are some countries out there, even the developing countries, who are far ahead of the curve compared to US, India for that matter. The women in technologies, or women in general in the technology space or outside of technology, the numbers have gone up traditionally very high in the last 20 years. So I'm pretty sure there are certain learnings from other countries that US can grab, just so that we can beat the 200 years of waiting time, so that we can get to at least 100 years. And one of the things I personally feel is that it has to start at every level. It's not just one company doing it, federal government doing it, or the companies in the Silicon Valley doing it, but it has to start at every level, at the community level. And as to Ms. K said, yeah, the STEAM program has to be promoted from the beginning, from the get-go, at the middle school level, high school level, at the community level. And the government has to do it very proactively, which I know, as I mentioned before, federal government is doing it. The SLED government also has to start to doing it. Companies have to consciously, again, I'll go back to the same thing what I said before. It is easier said than done, which means that every company has to consciously make an effort. So that way, when this starts to happen at every level, then I guess, we would see that 280 years drastically coming down to, maybe like 50, 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'd like to just jump on the tail of that.
Yes.
Everyone can be an advocate from wherever they sit. And you don't even have to necessarily be in technology to be a woman in technology supporter.
Great.
You may know someone in a department that can help someone else. It doesn't have to be directly a direct connection. But as Promot said, you have to be intentional, and you have to be intentional about your responsibility and your level of accountability, because that's the only way that anyone is going to be able to progress. It's not their problem. It's not someone else's problem. We all have a responsibility. We can all be advocates and should try to position ourselves to do so.
Shawn, take us home.
Yeah, again, everything that Promot and Kay have said is right on point. So fully support everything they've said. But just to kind of again add a little bit of my flavor as a small company that is growing, it is something that we do have to think about. And yes, think about our interactions in the office. Think about our interactions across our teams. Especially, in many cases, having a lot of young engineers who are either, fairly young out of college or have been used to kind of a male-dominated environment. We want to make sure that we provide a work environment that is open to everyone. And so just being cognizant of that is usually enough to make sure that folks are thinking about that, right? Because, you can make a joke or say something that could be off color, and it's, anyone could take that the wrong way. And we don't want to create an environment where anyone is uncomfortable. So we want to really encourage everyone to be collaborative, to be honest, to treat each other with respect, with courtesy, and with professionalism. If everyone does that, then it doesn't matter your race, gender, sexual orientation, then everyone will work well together. And as everyone works well together, then we deliver for our customers, and then we're a successful company. So it really comes back to how you treat everyone, and it goes back to our big core value, which is, do the right thing. Do the right thing for your colleagues, for the company, and for your customers. And if you do the right thing with those three things in mind, everything else will work out fine.
Thank you to all of the panelists. Thanks for the questions in the chat today and your engagement. Gary, I'll turn it back over to you to close us out.
Well, thank you. And first of all, just a huge virtual round of applause to this incredible panel, Shawn and Kay and Promot and Tricia, for your leadership through this talk today. We can't thank you enough. I want to thank everybody who joined us today. We really appreciate it. This has been recorded. It will be posted on our website, on the TAG website, here in the next couple of days. So I urge everybody to come back to it and make sure people know where they can listen to this. A special thanks again to our sponsors, to Paramount Software and to Cox for being a part of this. And don't forget to check tagonline.org for more of our virtual happenings and things that we're doing. We are now at the end of our time. This has been great. And what I take from this most of all is be intentional. Think about what you can do to help bring women into the technology field, to promote them within your organizations. Be intentional about everything that you do. Thank you all very much, and everybody have a great afternoon.